you're the financial coach for the Miami Dolphins. I was like, yeah, they're 22-year-old kids. And they're like, I don't think you understand the magnitude. You're working with $1 billion business. I was like, oh, okay, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Today's guest, Hillary Seiler, coaches top athletes to treat money like a performance skill, trainable just like your body. Turning today's paycheck into tomorrow's generational wealth. Let's dive in.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, you're not just a financial coach, you started in athletics and then went on to build financial footwork, where you coach everyone from professional athletes to everyday families. Is that right?
Yeah, we run the gamut from the top of the pro athlete chain all the way down to the 18-year-old with their first job trying to figure money out.
And now you've built a national brand in financial literacy.
Yeah, it's crazy when people say that. It's always like, oh yeah, we really have, my team and I really have. It's an awesome venture, but it's also very rewarding.
Can you give me a couple of pivotal moments in your life or career that led you to where you are today?
It all started when I was 19. I was in a pretty easy life run at that point. I was in college, it was paid for, life was easy. And my mom got sick, and the medical bills took the college money away. And I went from going, no job, taking a few credits, having a good time, to working 40 hours a week and paying for my college education, all while my family was going through a medical battle. And that changed the way that I thought about money. And I was young. I was in my late teens going into my early 20s, and I realized I knew nothing. And by nothing, I mean I knew nothing. And I grew up around a bunch of finance heads, so I knew I was ahead of my peers, but I still didn't think I had a handle on any of it. And I had to figure it out quickly. So that was my big aha moment at 19. And then when I was 26, my mom passed away after her battle, 7 years with her autoimmune disorder. And I watched the medical bills, and I watched the emotional and physical stress that money and medicine puts on people. And I realized I didn't ever want to feel that way again. And I didn't want anyone around me to ever feel that way. And it just so happened that the people that helped me during that very pivotal moment in my life were football players from the university I went to school at, Oregon State University. Two of the guys on the football team were my neighbors, and they were my buddies, and they kept my fridge full so that I had food, because I didn't have a lot of money. When I say I was eating a meal a day, I was doing that for a while, because they're just, you pay your rent or you buy food, right? You got to make sacrifices. So I lived that, and I lived it for a while. And they helped me out. So when they went into the NFL, I helped them out. And it was a pay it forward moment, which ended up turning into a contract with the Miami Dolphins in 2017.
How did that make you feel, that new contract?
I didn't really think much on it at the time, because I was helping a small group of Dolphins players, and I wasn't looking big picture. I was only maybe 27, 28 at the time. Or no, I guess I was 29 at the time. If I'm looking back now. Yeah, I was 29 at the time, but I was already helping people in the financial literacy space. So for me, it was just another type of company that was a little different. It wasn't, because I don't watch football. It wasn't until some of the people in my life were like, this is a very big deal. You're the financial coach for the Miami Dolphins. I was like, yeah, they're 22-year-old kids. They don't know anything. And they're like, I don't think you understand the magnitude. You're working with $1 billion business. I was like, oh, okay, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. So it didn't really hit me at first. And it took about a year of working with them to really see what we could do and what we were capable of doing with them as an organization. And then that bled into other teams, which has now turned into, my bread and butter and what I love to do. But at the moment it happened, it was very surreal, but it also wasn't something that I understood the magnitude of, because I didn't follow football. So I didn't really care. I was just there to help people. And that might be part of the reason that I got the job.
Right.
Because I didn't know who any of the players were. I didn't track anything. So I still don't follow football. Even the guys are like, oh, did you see Sunday football? No, no, I did not. I was on a plane. I was
You're
reading
like,
a
I
book.
want to treat all my clients the same, so I don't want to
Yeah.
become a fan.
I could never become a fan. I'm a fan of them as people,
Yeah.
but I couldn't tell you what half of their positions are or if they played or not. Um, that's not really part of being a financial coach. I need to know them as humans first, and then their job is what earns them the income for me to be able to help them. So it's a small piece of the puzzle, even though on Sunday, 100 million people play fantasy football numbers and watch my guys run around the field. So it was a cool moment, but honestly, at the moment that it happened to me, I really didn't understand the magnitude.
Right. And you reframed financial literacy as something you trained for, like a sport. When did
Mhm.
you first realize that finance could be approached this way?
I've always thought about money as something that you have to continually work on. It's not, you can't just learn one concept and master it. And so as an individual who was trying to learn in a space that was really uncomfortable when my mom was sick, I started realizing that if I wasn't doing certain activities every month, every day, every year, I wasn't going to build wealth. So I started looking at my workout programs and I went, this is kind of like a workout program if I'm looking at it the way that I think I'm looking at it. And sure enough, I designed a program with the help of a few of my company's employees and our owners. And I went, we need to train our money like someone trains for a sport. Because if you're not practicing the skills, getting the reps, doing the work, making the daily deposits, you're not going to succeed. And so I always thought, hey, let's train your money. And I'm writing a book that is going to be released on September 23rd that is called Train Your Money. And it's all
Nice.
about using those habits to build financial security, health, wealth, and all the things that come with understanding money.
Did this also help your workouts then, working on the finance side?
Oh, for sure. I work out every day. I lift every day, and so it's two peas in a pod, right? It's just part of who I am as a person. But also, when you're in training facilities, everything that they do every day is a routine. It's a training program. It's a guided exercise. So for me, it was just very symbolic of everything I was already doing. And yes, I definitely work out my money just as often as I work out in the gym.
And can you share a story of someone you've coached, maybe an athlete or another client, where a financial shift truly changed the trajectory of their career?
I can tell you the story. I can
Please.
tell you the story about this player who I cannot take all the credit for the work. He did the majority of it. But I had a young guy. He was a first round draft pick. And this was a few years back, COVID baby. We call them our COVID babies because we didn't get to see them that year. And really young coming into the league. And one of the things I was worried about when I met him was that he was so young and he was so excited. And he's such a positive person that I was actually afraid people were going to take advantage of that positivity and take some of his money from him. Not Some of it was malicious, some of it was not, but because his kindness is just out there and everybody sees him and he is a well-known name, I was concerned with age, emotion, and the fact that he wasn't really ready to manage the amount of money he was coming into, which was over $10 million his rookie year, coming from nothing and coming from a single parent household. It was just one of those things where I was concerned. He actually came to me and said, I'm concerned, and we bonded pretty quickly. He's now, I will just say he's past his fourth season. I can't tell you how far past his fourth season he is, but he's past his fourth season. And I have watched this man take the lessons that we have talked about, which is awareness. So, who is around you? Why are they around you? What are the intentions of them being around you? And how are those people influencing how you're choosing to spend money? Now, at an athlete level, that's a much higher dollar figure. So when you have a group of people around you and you're making $10 million in a year, the spending is much higher. But if you spin that to everyday people like me and you, where my group of friends wants to go out to happy hour and dinner every single night. My group of friends wants to go and have an adventure every weekend that requires us to take a road trip and get a hotel. We all have the same influences. It's just a matter of how many dollars and zeros are behind that dollar sign.
Right.
And watching him bring awareness to what was around him and who was around him and being able to change the influences in his life for the better so that his money wasn't impacted negatively is one of my biggest successes. Um, I can't I can't see how much money he saved, but I can tell you I know how much money his net worth is right now. And had he not reframed some of the things he was doing rookie season, he would absolutely not be in a place where he can change the trajectory of his life, his children's lives, and their children's lives. So he's learning how to build generational wealth by making good decisions. Didn't come down to a budget, didn't come down to a perfect credit score, came down to awareness and making strategic, really solid financial choices so that his money was deployed in ways that didn't harm him, but that also impacted everyone around him in a good way. So he was one of my big successes.
Is there a framework that you generally bring to clients when you're working with them?
Yeah, I have a 5-part framework that we work with in our My Money Playbooks, which are on our website. But that framework focuses around cash flow management, which is part one, credit, which is part two, auditing your circle, part three, hard money conversations, which is part four, and then wealth building, which is part five. And I take every athlete through this, but this framework applies to everyone. And the reason it starts with cash flow, if you don't have your cash flow right, you're never going to build credit. You're not going to have a good financial circle around you to audit or work with, which is very important if you're going to build wealth. You're probably not going to be able to have hard conversations, or if you are having hard conversations, there's no resolution because we don't have cash flow management happening. And then last but not least, if you can't manage cash flow, you're not building wealth. So the framework builds upon itself. And with my players specifically, um, their cash flow systems are very different, as you can imagine. They're coming into wealth a lot faster, much more quickly, but it's also exiting their bank accounts faster than people realize because it is expensive to be a professional athlete.
Right.
It's not that they get paid, the rookie salary this year is $840,000. They're not going to see $840,000 plus signing bonuses. They might see half. Then they have to pay their agents. And then there are fees to being an NFL athlete. Same with the NBA. The NBA teams I work with have the same fee structure. There are NFL and NBA PA dues that they have to pay. There's a lot that goes into it that people don't see. Similar to employees of a company, NFL athletes have certain things that they have to do. And so taking them through this framework of understanding cash flow, building credit, building a financial team, taking them through the steps of how to say no, which is money conversations, or how to say yes and when to say yes, because there are times in which to do both. And then last but not least, once you've got all the foundation built, how do you start building wealth?
When I think of an athlete, I think of personal goals, and specifically one in particular,
Oh,
taking care of your family. How has that been both an inspiration for athletes, but also maybe put a lot of financial pressure on them, maybe a little bit too quickly, or I might just be making assumptions.
I think all of us want to take care of our families. Coming from someone at 19 like myself who watched my family suffer and I did not want them to ever suffer again. Imagine growing up in suffering for 18 years and then you make it big. The first thing you want to do is pull your family out of the rut. So I understand it. There's an emotional drive behind that. And that is the goal for the majority of the young men that I meet. Some of them come from families where they don't have to do that, which is wonderful because mom and dad are well taken care of. But most of the guys I talk to, and I would say 100% of the NFL, want to make sure their family is safe and secure financially. In order to do that, a lot of these guys have learned, and this just takes time, repetition, and years in the locker room. Throwing money at a problem doesn't solve it. It's never going to solve it. So saying, I just made $10 million, I'm going to go buy mom a house, I'm going to buy dad a car, I'm going to pay for sister's college education, which I do love. I do support the education piece. I think it's very important. Um, we have to take a step back and say, what are we investing into? And how are those investments going to help that person feed themselves for the next 60 years? Because if we're just throwing money at a problem, we're exacerbating the problem, we're making it worse. So every time we work with these guys and every time I work with them, I know exactly how they feel because I lived what they're telling me from 19 to 26. I lived going, I have to take care of my family. I want to retire my dad. I cannot let my family go through this again. They're going through the same thing, but they have a much higher salary to deal with. So teaching them when and how to say no, when and how to say yes, and every situation is different. And then pulling back, big picture, 30,000 foot view. Where does everybody need to be, not right now, but in the next 30, 50, 70 years for everyone to be comfortable? And this isn't something that they teach in school. Most of these guys are looking at me going, I don't even know where I'm going to be in a year. How do I know where I'm going to be in 20? And this is where we have to teach them how to set the goal. Okay, if we're going to retire mom or we're going to buy mom a house, what are all the things we have to have in place in order to do that? And that includes helping them hire a good financial team. So, as a coach, my job is never to give them one path. It's to give them as many options as I can and say, which path do you want to choose? And who are you bringing along for the ride? And who are you hiring in order to help you make this happen? Whether that's a good CPA, a good financial advisor, you name it. So, those are the different things that I speak with players about pretty regularly. And as you probably know, just with, I mean, even the two of us, our lifestyles are different, our needs are different. So the conversation's always shifting.
And I know that you get to work with such awesome, talented people. Um, but how have you been able to spread your knowledge and your learning and your expertise beyond just the athletes you train?
Yeah, the athlete piece, surprisingly enough, is not the biggest part of our business, and people don't realize that.
Oh,
And I'm okay with that. It's, they're just the most public part of our business. The way that my company, my coaches, and the people around me truly work to provide quality financial education. And when I say quality, anybody can say they're a financial expert these days. Actually verifying those certifications is a different story, which we provide all of ours because I think it's important that people understand the expertise, that we know what we're talking about. And the way that we utilize those certifications and that expertise is through workshops, seminars, and keynotes. So we go all over the country working with companies of all shapes and sizes and their employees directly, whether it's the leadership team, whether it's the manufacturing floor, whoever that company would like us to talk to about any specific topic. We come in and we design the education that they need to learn on everything from understanding how the banking system works, understanding how to read your paycheck, all the way down to maximizing your retirement so that you can actually retire. Because the fear I get from a lot of corporate employees or a lot of employees in small businesses is that I will never be able to retire. I probably hear that more with every company I work with than any other fear is I will never be able to retire. So we focus a lot on how to utilize your benefits to push you to retirement faster, because every company is slightly different. And then we teach the fundamentals, and that can be in person or virtual, a mix of the two. And usually there's some sort of big motivational keynote around money that we'll do for the larger companies. So that's how we spread as much financial knowledge as we can. And then we piggyback it with a financial wellness dashboard that has over 3,000 resources on it that employers provide to their employees that piggyback on what we teach. So there's always that constant learning. Like I said, you've got to train it, got to do the reps. So this is
right.
your way to keep those reps going after you've done a workshop that's actually made a difference.
And we love talking about growth. So we got to ask you, what has been your greatest success and then also your greatest challenge in scaling your work?
I'm going to start with the challenge because I think that
Yeah.
that's any entrepreneur goes straight for the weakness. That's what we do. Challenge. The way we've built our business and the way that I've circled my team around me is that we are first and foremost all finance heads that just happen to have a background in public speaking. And it's very, very hard to find someone who's worked in the financial industry for 10 plus years that is a phenomenal speaker. So, my big challenge has been how do I replace myself? How do I find somebody that can go resonate with a room and teach a subject and be knowledgeable enough to answer all of the questions that come out of that session, but also provide a session that actually adds value and that people can leave with two, three, four nuggets or takeaways they can actually utilize inside of their personal lives, not their business life, but their personal life. I have found two. I have found two. I have been looking for a decade and I've only found two. And so my big challenge is finding that quality, that charisma inside of an individual person who can make finance fun. Not an
Right.
easy not an easy ask. So that's my big challenge. I can't scale as quickly as I'd like, but I
Mhm.
also like to be able to control the narrative. And so being, if you scale too quickly, things blow up. If you go too slow, you don't have a business. So it's always finding that happy medium. Uh, we're working on it, but that is our big challenge. I would say the biggest success. Oof, goodness. I don't think we've made one yet. At least I don't think I have. I think my biggest success is personal, not professional. And it was taking a risk on myself. And that's my big key. I know it's not all that exciting, but taking a risk on myself,
Beautiful.
investing.
Beautiful.
Well, and it's true. My company isn't where I'd like it to be. My team and I talk every single day, and we're always looking at ways to make a bigger impact. The more people we reach, the more that we do. The more that we do, the better our communities are. We're not where we want to be. So I wouldn't say We're not a failure by any means, but we're not what we would value as success, at least with our vision, mission, and our core values of financial footwork. We're getting there. We're definitely aiming for it. Me personally, taking the chance on myself, hardest decision I've ever made. It took me a long time to do it. And then dipping into my savings and saying, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to go and I'm going to build this thing from the ground up. I had a lot of people tell me I would never make it. I had a lot of people tell me it would never work. And here we are 10 years later. So that's to date my biggest success.
And what are you hoping to achieve through your new book? What can people expect?
I'm really excited about this because it's just finance made simple. I hate that we make finance so complicated and that all of the different things are segmented and we never get everything just in one place. And I wanted to talk about the 10 really big topics in finance. And that's exactly what this book was about. So that the user, anyone who wants to read this, you could be 18 leaving high school. You could be 22 going into your first job. You could be 30 and having your first child. You could be 40 and going through a divorce. Or you could be 65 and retiring. There is something in this book for each person at every stage of life.
And where can people find your book? Where can they find more about you?
So my book is on Amazon and on our website, which is financialfootwork.com. So anytime you want to check us out, we've got an entire library of free resources, articles, videos, the whole shebang. I like to give as much away as I possibly can. So go check it out, go learn something. There's plenty of stuff for you to learn 5 to 10 minutes a day and put in the reps.